Thank you so much for joining CNBC, and congratulations on your presidency of the COP. What is your task at this point in your mind?
Well, hopefully a smooth process where we can achieve and maintain the momentum that was created since Paris and through Glasgow, that parties continue to commit to their NDCs and increase the level of their ambition and strategies for zero carbon. Hopefully we can deal with this challenge if we deal with it collectively. And this is the venue to do so. This is a multilateral venue that where we can reach agreement on what we need to do and when we need to do it. And definitely this is the time for action, and this is why we have coined this COP as the COP of implementation.
Billions and billions of dollars apparently needed to help developing countries fight climate change. But a big question, of course, is where are you going to get that money? Because governments, they're tapped out. I asked the head of the IMF just this morning about her mind in terms of getting that money. And she said, listen, it's got to be from the private sector. We've got to tap into all of that investment opportunity. The problem, of course, is that you don't have the big CEOs here this year that you've had at past COPs. So you're talking to an audience that didn't even show up for the event. How, in your mind, is that going to evolve? How are they going to finally get that type of funding? Because, as we say, governments right now are facing serious economic strife at home.
Well, there's a recognition, of course, that this process can not only depend on governments, but on all stakeholders, whether it's governments, private sector, civil society. There is a growing sense of the viability of investment and the return on investment when it comes to renewable energy. The crisis related to the energy crisis is also an opportunity. I think that many are recognizing can be very beneficial. And we are trying to highlight that through the initiatives we are rolling out nationally, regionally, and internationally during the COP, and also the projects that we are providing. And what Egypt has done specifically in the area of renewable energy, the giant solar farm in Binban, the expansion of our generation through wind, and hopefully the connectivity that can be provided, and the production of green hydrogen, which is viewed as the energy of the future. These are all areas where we know that we need trillions of dollars to meet the challenge of climate change. The trillions are available, but we need to generate the interest, generate the technology.
But how do you do that if they're not here?
Well, there are those who will be here. I think those who aren't here will still be represented in terms of their institutions. And this is not a one-time event. All through the year, there are various events highlighting the importance of investment in to deal with climate change, in renewable energy, in new technologies. And I believe that we are on a path where we need to maintain that momentum if we are to have an impact.
There's a growing recognition that there has to be more investment in the energy of today, which of course is fossil fuels, oil and gas. That may be an uncomfortable message for the COP group as we know it. In your mind, is there going to be a more realistic conversation happening?
Well, I would not at all be of the view that we should depend more on fossil fuels. This would be defeating for the purpose.
True, but the world needs more investment.
The world needs investment in renewables. The world needs to move quicker in terms of technologies. We have to balance. We cannot sustain the same what we have been doing in the past. We have seen the consequences. We have seen how lives and livelihoods have been impacted. If we want to see more cyclones, if we want to see more flooding, if we want to see more devastation, then we can proceed in the same manner that we've been doing for the past 100 years. But we have to look to the future, and we have to guarantee that there is a planet that can sustain life for the future generations. So we really do have to recognize. And practicality does not mean that we put forward priorities that do not serve us. I think the practicality means that we have to try to achieve our goals through practical means, and those practical means are at our disposal if we make the effort.
I want to ask you quickly about a recent agreement between Israel and Lebanon that was brokered by the United States, that maritime agreement. for exploration in the Eastern Mediterranean. In your mind, how is the energy situation in this part of the world evolving?
Well, there is, of course, a recognition that there are potential energy facilities that exploration will provide, especially in the gas sector. And Egypt has created the Eastern Mediterranean gas hub. And we have always advocated that we need a just transition to renewables. So for many, there is a view that gas might provide a degree of a transition. I don't want to put greater emphasis on this issue, but for many of the African countries where they are discovering resources that are necessarily going to be utilized for them to be able to bring their people out of poverty and to create conditions of sustainable development. But that should not become the priority, or we should not become complacent, but look at this as a matter of just transition, and that we can move from there into renewables at a faster rate.
Essentially what we've heard from policymakers is that goal of 1.5% is a miss.
1.5 degrees.
Yeah. One question I would have for you is, what then, in your mind, is the next challenge?
Well, we have to maintain the Paris below 2 degrees. The 1.5 is an ambitious prospect, but to maintain the ability for the global heat to increase, I think all of the science indicates that if we go beyond the 2 degrees, we will be on a very slippery slope of no return. That the conditions of the environment, the catastrophic weather events will only increase exponentially, and we will not be able to roll back and regain our ability to create the equilibrium, environmental equilibrium needed. So we have to focus on all of the priorities and not replace one for another, but rather deal with the various aspects as equitably as possible.
And is there a worry in your mind that will fall on deaf ears given what's happening with the global economy?
Well, we recognize that this is a special year because of the geopolitical conditions, the tensions, the polarization, the effects on the global economy and food and energy security have all created a sense of apprehension and anxiety where it can lead to a comfortable backtracking and a justification. No, there is no justification. Even if we are to accept that there might be slight modifications to strategies and commitments, those should be of a very temporary nature and should not exceed the very limited nature of the current conditions. But we have to go back to maintaining our commitments, maintaining our responsibility, and moving this process forward.
What we understand is first Rishi Sunak, the new Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, hadn't planned on coming to COP, but he got a real talking to apparently from constituents who felt he had to be here. He is coming, as we understand it, the new Prime Minister. Do you anticipate that there's going to be a conversation about the British Egyptian citizen right now in a hunger strike?
Well, I believe that we should all concentrate on the task at hand and on the priority as relates climate change. We have a very deep bilateral relations with the UK and have
but the
mechanisms
prospect of this man dying in prison, taking away, I would think, from the messaging here, no?
I am confident that prison authorities will provide the health care and the care that is available to all inmates, as is the case in any other penal system. So we.
But if he's on a hunger strike, that would be force feeding, no?
Well, we have. I think there have been reports of previous hunger strikes that were not verifiable. Again, this is a matter of personal choice, and it is dealt with within the penal system, within the rules and regulations.
Is the issue that he became a British citizen at a later date, and you don't consider him a British citizen? I'm just curious.
Well, the Egyptian law has a process and procedure to recognize the bestowing of dual nationality on what is originally an Egyptian citizenship. And that process has not been as yet fulfilled.
Okay. But that's a conversation you're open to having with the British Prime Minister?
We have a very transparent and open conversation with all our partners. We have nothing to hide, and we will continue to address all of the issues within the pertinent channels of communications that exist.
Your Excellency, thank you for joining CNBC.
Thank you.